Welcome back. We're coming back from closed session at 7:15 PM. And would anyone like to make a motion to come out of closed session?
I'll make a motion to come out of closed session and approve the minutes from the closed session.
Mr. Covert,
I'll second.
supported by Ms. Knox. Any comments, questions, or concerns? Hearing none, call the roll.
Okay, Mr. Covert,
Yes.
Ms. Knox,
Yes.
Mr. Vinatelli is a yes, Ms. Berkmeyer,
Yes.
Mr. Powers,
Yes.
Mr. Richards,
Yes.
Mr. Sunnyberger.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, moving down the agenda, I'd like to adjourn our closed session meeting. Would anyone like to entertain that motion?
I'll make the motion.
Point of clarification, Mr. President, you mean to adjourn this special session meeting?
Correct.
Okay.
Mr. Powers. Any comments, questions, or concerns? Call the roll, please.
Ms. Knox,
Yes.
Mr. Powers.
Yes.
Mr. Richards,
Yes.
Mr. Covert,
Yes.
Mr. Sunnyberger,
Yes.
Mr. Vinatelli is a yes, Ms. Berkmeyer.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right. That ends the closed session. 7:16. All right. Welcome to our regular Board of Education meeting. Please rise for the pledge of allegiance to the flag. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Mr. Vincelli, call the roll, please.
Okay, Mr. Richards,
Here.
Mr. Powers. Here. Ms. Berkmeyer,
Here.
Mr. Vinatelli is here, Mr. Sunnyberger,
Here.
Ms. Knox,
Here.
Mr. Covert.
Here.
We're all intended, sir.
All right, thank you. All right, next item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Colbert, Ms. Knox. Any comments, questions, or concerns? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Covert.
Yes.
Ms. Knox,
Yes.
Mr. Powers,
Yes.
Ms. Berkmeyer,
Yes.
Mr. Vinatelli is yes, Mr. Sunnyberger,
Yes.
Mr. Richards.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, thank you. All right, first item here is a state championship recognition by the athletic department.
All right. I think it's on. All right. So just want to introduce myself first. My name is Eddie Kampf. I am the head coach for the boys track and field team at Anchor Bay High School. And then we have Cal Nardoni, the head girls coach at Anchor Bay High School for track and field. Next to us is Cameron Gramzel. So we just want to thank you for having us today, and really just want to recognize his achievements. So just to start, as coaches, we hope to work with athletes who are talented, dedicated, and willing to put in the work day after day. Every once in a while, someone comes along who exceeds every expectation. Cameron is one of those athletes. Throughout his career at Anchor Bay High School, Cameron has represented our track and field program with qualities that every coach can dream of having in each of their athletes. His work ethic has been second to none. He has never looked for shortcuts or excuses. He simply showed up every day, ready to improve, compete, and make those around him better. This past season, Cameron accomplished something truly remarkable. He became a state champion in discus. reaching the pinnacle of high school track and field in the state of Michigan. As incredible as an achievement that is, he didn't stop there. Cam shattered the Anchor Bay High School discus record with a throw of 188 feet, breaking the previous one by over 30 feet. That's not just breaking a record, that's redefining what's possible for future athletes who wear an Anchor Bay uniform. Records are meant to be chased, but championships and legacies are earned. Cameron earned both. What has impressed me most, though, isn't just the distance of his throws or the medals he's won. It's the character that he's shown throughout his journey. He's been a tremendous teammate, leader by example, and someone younger athletes naturally looked up to. His success is a reflection of countless hours of hard work. Cameron also has an amazing support system with his parents. It has made a lasting impact on our program with the amount of time and patience they have instilled into their son, Cameron. Cameron, you've left a lasting mark on this program. Years from now, athletes will see your name on the record board and know the standard you set. But those of us who had the opportunity to coach you will remember much more than the numbers. We'll remember your dedication and the way you represented Anchor Bay every time you stepped into that ring. As you begin the next chapter of your life, we're excited to watch you continue both your academic and athletic career at Eastern Michigan University. I have no doubts you'll continue to grow, compete at a high level, and make everyone at Eastern just as proud as you have made us here at Anchor Bay. Thank you for everything you've given to this program. Congratulations on an unforgettable high school career, becoming a state champion, and earning the opportunity to compete at the next level. Once a tar, always a tar. We wish you nothing but success at Eastern Michigan and beyond. Congratulations, Cam. And to end this, we actually made shift a decorative discus at 1.6 kilograms. So with his name on it, his school record, state champion, and the logo. So just wanted to present that to you so you can have.
All right. Thank you. And Ms. Knox,
Yeah, I had something to say about Cameron. Not only are you inspiring those that are coming after you, you are impressing those that came before you. My son graduated in 2022. He is in his senior year at Saginaw Valley, and he called me and said, "Did you hear about that Anchor Bay kid that won the championship and broke the school record?" So all the guys that were on the track team back then, they still have a group chat, and they were very, very excited for you. So you continue to impress those that came before you.
yeah, thank you. Okay, moving down the list, superintendent's update.
So at the end of the summer, again, big focus has been on going to walk you through the construction, and I have a couple other items that we'll talk about at the end. Okay, first, next slide. So this is a view of what will be the middle school south. This is what was the old Shoreliner. I don't know if you ever been in the old Shoreliner kitchen. It was kind of really dark, very dated. So what we're doing now is, again, as we're creating feeder programs for all of our CTE programs, especially kind of working with the state, because this is a state kind of goal as well. So you can see this is the kitchen as it's kind of coming along. Those caution flags are basically so they don't hit the halon system for fire suppression. Next slide. This is just another view. You can see as they're working on it, installing the lights. So all of this will get cleaned up over the next couple of weeks and will be ready to use for the new school year. This is, if you're looking down from where the old Shoreliner is, the first thing you'll notice is new lockers. So this was one of the things when we surveyed students back when we did strategic planning of they did not like how small and narrow the lockers were. Plus, they were the original lockers, so they were well over 50 years old. So we had quite a few that repair costs and things like that. So you can see the hallways have been painted. The ceiling tiles are up because they're this is the fire suppression that's going in. And then the last thing that'll happen next week is they will polish the floor. Next slide. So this is actually the area just a little down the hallway. This will be kind of what we did at the high school with a collaboration space. And then where it says exit, that will be the new office entrance. So down that hallway on one side will be the main office, on the other side will be counseling. And again, so it's part of the same strategy we've done with kind of the safety work, where moving the public areas so that people don't have to go all the way into the school in order to get those to those areas. Next slide. This is an example of, this is actually the new for our ancillary staff, because we added a lot of social workers, counselors, things like that over the last few years. So this will be the area that they will have to work. This is where the old main office is located. So now instead of them, they'll actually have an office to work in, because we didn't have that before. They were kind of scattered throughout. So now it's kind of a one-stop shopping for students if they need additional help. Next slide. Again, this is actually will be there's a staff workroom. Next slide. This is the staff kind of kitchen area that will be as part of that area where the old main office is. This was actually interesting. If couldn't find a picture from when I took it, we actually had an original stove that was like the old green cast iron monstrosity. So this is a huge update compared to what they had before. Next slide. This is actually now looking at the cafeteria. Excuse all of the things on the left. That's all of the classroom furniture and things that were taken out so that they could work in those areas. But the red area, that will be the new school store. And so students will be able to operate. Again, it's part of the strategic plan. Let's get career planning in the middle school, and let's kind of have those as feeder programs for all of that. Next slide. Again, this is outside what was the social studies area. Again, the lockers are moved. They still have to clean the floors. This will be another collaboration space so that teachers can take their students out, kind of do group work, things like that. Kind of exactly how they use it at the high school. Next slide. This is a classroom, and you can see they're still finishing up. They have to cut the tiles for the fire suppression system because it did not have fire suppression before. New carpeting, new paint, new lighting. These are dimmable lights, so that was by popular request of the teachers that they could adjust the lighting as needed. New univent, so this will update our heating and cooling for each of the classrooms as well. Then this is actually going to be the dedicated area for wrestling and cheer. And part of, as we did the realignment, that we knew we needed an area. We didn't really have a dedicated area, so we were constantly, they would have to roll it out or share the gym. Now they'll be able to have practice like right after school in that area once this is done. There will be a sport kind of like flooring. They'll go in there and they'll be able to share that. Next slide. And this isn't glamorous, but this is one that especially, you know, a lot of the bond is things that you don't necessarily see. So these are boilers. Next slide. And these are part of the controls for the boiler so that we can make sure that the temperature will be the right temperature. It'll be cool when we want it cool. It'll be warm when we want it warm. And we can monitor that and also get its huge leaps in efficiency that we should see from that, which will help save energy in the long run, and give us more control. Because a lot of times with the old controls, you might even recall this building before we would have to actually send somebody up on the roof to turn on the heating or the cooling and all that, because that's how old the systems were. They had to be manually turned on. Next slide. This is a makerspace room that's under construction now. This probably will not be ready for this year. We're just working through like with the inspections and the fire marshal and all that. We didn't plan it. This was mostly kind of pull ahead work since they were there. New flooring, new tables, new lighting again. And once the space is there, then we'll work on, this is the one question that you had, Lisa, about outlets and so on. Next slide. This is one of the old kind of makerspace rooms, but now new flooring. I don't know if you recall this when we did strategic planning. This had a new floor that was put in, I believe, 8 years ago, 9 years ago, but that floor was not, I believe it was that they got the flooring and it was kind of like on a discount. It was odds and ends and it didn't hold up well. So what we did was, this is the same flooring that we've used in other areas of the updates. So it's much more durable. It's much more cohesive, so you won't have issues with the individual tiles. And again, new paint, lighting. Now there will be counters that go back in there, and this will be what the makerspace will still use this year. And then the plan is the next school year to kind of move into the other room that I showed you on the previous slide. Next slide. This is probably the so far people have gone through it. It's the restrooms. I don't know if you recall the old restrooms. Again, they were original with the old tile. And so this one does not have obviously they haven't put the partitions in. Next slide. And this is one that they're almost done installing the partitions. This will also bring it up to code. We did not have ADA accessible bathrooms. For those of you, I know many of you attended school here. It's a whole difference between where it was before and how dated and dark it was to now. And so all the fixtures are up to date. We also took care of all the plumbing issues that we had with like roots getting into the old clay waste lines and things like that. So everything flushes, everything works right in there. And so all of the bathrooms have been done. We started them in staggered, so we will have maybe one or two that might not be done because we started some during school and we've been kind of moving across, but our hope is to have them all ready day one. Next slide. So this is the other teacher room that they'll have. So this will be the staff room. They can, for lunch, staff meetings, things like that as well. Again, just waiting on new flooring, new paint. There'll be new furniture once they finish with the ceiling and everything else that goes in there. Okay, this is actually will be the new office area, because if you recall, with the office being inset, they didn't have views of the parking lot, and especially the parking lot down by the Shoreliner. So what we did is in the wing, when you enter into kind of the circular driveway there, that will now be the entrance, and I'll show you the exterior view in a second. But now, much larger views to outside. They'll be able to see that. Plus, this is the office side. That where you see kind of where it's hanging out, that'll be the secure entrance. Next slide. This is outside what it looks like. So now they'll have views. We were able to save those trees, even though we had to fix the plumbing that runs through there. So you can kind of see the one stub out there right in the middle. So that's been cleaned up so that everything drains appropriately. So that is underway. Glass was actually going in today. You can see some of it in there. Next slide. And this is what it will look like on the outside. So again, much easier for people to see where they're going in, much more secure than what it was. They'll also have view of people as they're coming in. They can see both parking lots. So now there was always a challenge with if people wanted to come in, the smaller parking lot was full. Now they can go to the other one, much more accessible for parents. And part of it as well, we got new signs that were updated. Some of them, next slide. So this is at Naldret. And so if you recall, these had the old flip sign, so you could put one thing up there and then we changed it about every other week. Now they can actually keep things updated and continually have things rolling, and we can also coordinate them across the district to kind of share things that are going on. Next slide. So this is actually another view of Naldret. So where the black fencing is, that's where the addition is for the library. That concrete that's poured will be the new kind of temporary sidewalk for when school starts in the fall, because we'll still have the additions are not set to be ready until next school year. And so students will use that, and then they'll be able to enter right around where what was the original main entrance, I'm told, back when this building opened in the 70s, which is the kindergarten area. We'll still have a pathway to the office so that they can go that direction as well, but it just helps with the flow of traffic. Next slide. This is actually where the ancillary staff will now be. Again, like I mentioned, we've added a lot of student support, social workers, counselors, things like that as we've gone. And as we've done that, they need an area to work. So this will kind of be their area. We couldn't get too far into the area, but this is actually, as you go towards what's the current main office, it's to the right-hand side. So now there's actually, they'll all be able to be in one spot, not spread across whatever supply closets that we had for them to work out of. And so again, they can work with students, they can do small groups in those areas as well. Next slide. This is actually a picture inside of there where they're at. This will be done again as the first week of school. There's offices on either end. There's an open area where they can work with students in groups if they need to. Next slide. Same thing, updating classrooms there. This is the classroom. You can also see with the elementary, they have restrooms in there. So those are the new partitions that are going into the class restrooms, new carpeting, new lighting, paint as well. Then this is the stage area and all that. So that's getting new flooring as well. Right now, they just finished the main area, and you can see the new paint on the stage, that kind of slate blue that will have a border in that same color that will go around. So that will all coordinate. And just another view of the stage and everything there. And then they're already moving on to the hallways. And so this is, they are finishing this up. So this was actually, it was impressive. While we were doing the tour, this is in about an hour that they were able to make this much progress. So they've been moving very quickly through everything. So they'll get the flooring done, and then they'll come back. We're basically working in waves. So first they get the drywall, then they'll have the painter come through, or the ceiling, depending on where they're at, because they're kind of flip-flopping. Then they come through and do the lighting, and then put the ceiling tiles in. And this is actually the teacher workroom there and staff lounge. So all the new furniture is there. We are just waiting for flooring and all of that, and then that will be set up. So we were running out of places to store it, so they'll have it there. So when they do the other parts of the office, then they'll move that out and do this portion. This is actually, if you're looking at the center section, you can kind of see they started to raise the walls. This is the new media center. And so this is actually at Ashley. So what you can see is it's starting to take shape of the size of it. It's hard to see in this picture, but you can kind of see the main entrance there is under the awning to the right. And so that's kind of how the media center, there'll be a computer lab in there. There'll also be like a student support room as well. off the side, but this will be the media center portion. And then this is now back to Naldret. So this is the part of the addition for the new classrooms. And so what they have to do is this is the firewall that they have to put in for the addition, and then they'll kind of build out from there. Next slide. And you can kind of see the layout of that with all the footings are in. So then what they're doing is kind of working through and raising the walls. And then the goal is to have that kind of weather tight by winter, and then they'll be able to finish the interior spaces. Next slide. We're also doing a lot of mechanicals, as I mentioned. So when we were there yesterday, they were just getting some of the rooftop units delivered on top of the building. So again, heating, cooling, boilers, things like that are all going into place to be ready for the opening day. Next slide. This is back to Ashley. So again, they're pouring the slabs up by the building now that they have the footings in. So then they'll pour all of that so then they can go forward and continue to raise those walls. This is just another view from kind of looking out from the school side towards the parking lot. And so it kind of gives you another view of everything. Next slide. Then this is inside. This is actually the kitchen area that will be there. So they poured the floor. They're working on all of the electrical and everything before they button that up. And then once they do drywall, they'll start moving in the equipment. We know that this probably will not be ready because this was the whole thing. We're moving from, we didn't cook in some of the kitchens, and Naldret being one of them as well. And so what we'll do is, so we ship meals over. We'll set up a temporary serving line until these become cooking kitchens again, which should probably be, our goal is to have it by the end of October, all up and running. Next slide. This is actually what will become one of the science and STEM rooms. So they had the drywall. They were beginning to paint that today, actually. So much larger rooms, because our typical, if you recall, our typical classrooms there are like 640 square feet. So we're more than doubling the size of the square feet especially for those enrichment classes. Our regular classrooms in the new wing will be at about 1,000. And the goal is to get through about spring break of this year. The new wing should be done. We'll slide over the students into the new classrooms, and then we'll work on the old wing and make those classrooms larger and kind of, because we're targeting just about 1,000 square feet for a regular classroom. So that should give about 40% more space for teachers to do, whether it's centers or any other activities in the classroom. Next slide. Okay, had some questions by some board members on student discipline. Just kind of wanted to walk through some of those things. I know I've shared some of this before. Next slide. So we talked about kind of the approach that the state kind of takes, and especially the state is very concerned, and this kind of manifests itself in the budget, about the school to prison pipeline. And just to kind of give you the background, next slide, we'll kind of walk you through. So if you recall, back in the 80s, there was a crime problem. It was the crack epidemic. And part of that, the state started moving towards zero tolerance. And then what they found was, if you kind of look at this chart, even though they started the zero tolerance, the violent crime rate went up. So the prison incarceration rate went up considerably, yet violent crime was also going up. So then the state has kind of worked through, because one of the issues you might remember was that the state, just the prison budget was kind of going bankrupt. They privatized some prisons and all that. So they started some programs to kind of handle what they call the school to prison pipeline. Next slide. So part of these justice system reforms were that they're looking at what are the other alternatives, because they know that certain things, and I'd share this with the board before, every day of suspension for a student, every day if they're expelled, it doubles and starts tripling the rates of students dropping out. And then those tend to go into state programs, and then they end up going to prison. Most of the students, if they have so many days, and I think I have it the next slide here. So this was shared before. I took this right from a state presentation. So depending on, you can see, depending on the number of suspensions and if they have expulsion, how it drastically changes for students, their likelihood of, so the red line is the four-year dropout rate increases, their four-year graduation rate goes down, and then their college enrollment rate also greatly declines based off of that. So the state has been really pushing districts, and they made the change in the law a few years ago. Next slide. So in the Michigan compiled laws, they kind of changed it to really school districts have to use restorative practices as an alternative or in addition to suspension or expulsion for student misconduct. And basically, we're constantly doing this. You have to weigh whether a lesser intervention could effectively address the behavior. And so this is something that all of us that we have to kind of weigh. And this kind of manifests itself, and there's a 7-part test that a lot of people probably aren't aware of. Next slide. So the 7 factors that we are required by law that we have to weigh, because the legal argument that we have to be able to fulfill is it justified and proportionate to whatever the consequence was? So we have to take into account student's age, disciplinary history, whether the pupil is a student with a disability, seriousness of the violation or behavior, safety risk, use of restorative practices, as I mentioned before, and the level of intervention. Can the same thing be done with a lesser intervention, as it says? Okay, questions on any of this so far? Okay.
How are you supposed to determine whether or not expulsion or another sort of disciplinary process is going to be equivalent in terms of the impact?
So basically, what the state looks at is, hey, what is everybody else kind of doing? What impacts are they having? What's the impact on the student? And obviously those other factors, what's the age? How long are they out? Things like that. So you have to kind of weigh that, and you have to weigh it in kind of the whole, up against what everybody else sees and kind of what's kind of works for that. So you can't have, you can't be excessively harsh on something. The main thing they'll tell you at the state is you can't really send a message, because one, you can't share discipline with other people, and it doesn't work anyhow, and it's just causing more issues at the state level. Okay. Had some other questions I just kind of wanted to address, especially in light of the budget. So budget notes, just kind of want to go to the next one. There's always a question about fund equity and where we're at. So the state mandates that you have a 5% minimum fund equity, okay? And if you recall, when I first came on, we were below 5%. So every month we had to meet with the state and we had to justify everything. How many reams of paper? What are you doing with that? Can you fit more kids onto a bus? Can you do whatever in order to kind of stay above going bankrupt? And basically at a certain point, if you fall into the red, and you go below the 0%, then you're at risk of they could come in and take you over. The recommendation is always 15 to 20%. And part of this is, it's kind of two things. Like, a lot of people don't realize that, and I've explained this before at previous board meetings, where the state doesn't give funding every month. We have to make it from the end of June, which is our last state aid payment, until typically October, but depending on when the state does the budget, it's not always there. You might recall 3 years ago, and really 30 years before that, we had to borrow from the state in order to cover our operations to get from June until October. Now, when interest rates were like 2% and all that, it wasn't a ton. I mean, it was still probably 40 to 80,000. But now, if you look at interest rates, I mean, it could be 300, 400, 500,000. So we try and avoid that by going 15 to 20%. You may remember last year when we talked about the state not passing the budget. We can run operations of the district on a daily basis with a 15% fund equity for about 28 to 30 days, okay? And so if they didn't pass that budget, they won't let us close. You can't do that. You have to, and parents expect them to be open. They want to run their programs. So we work through, and that's what the 15% is. The other thing is to look at it from a budget cycle type view. Okay. So 5% is basically kind of your factor to stay above the state. But then the other 10% is really look at it as 2 budget cycles. It gives you don't want to do what you're seeing a lot of districts. I mean, that are laying off staff, that are, there's Oakland County District that was just in paper, 60 teachers that they laid off. There, one in Macomb County that laid off 10% of their staff. We're trying to stay even with all that and maintain what we have. Because again, after ESSER, and I'll kind of show you this on the large scale, we added a lot of social workers, we added counselors, we added a lot of student supports. In fact, we put about $1,000 per student into those student supports. But we want to maintain those. We want to maintain our reading coaches where we can. We want to maintain all of that. And how do we do that? And this way we kind of look at it like, hey, if the state all of a sudden, because our big concern now on the federal budget is we know that they might, right now the proposal is to cut Title I, which is your at-risk funding, IDEA, which is special ed funding, by about 17% each, and then eliminate Title II, Title III, which is your bilingual, Title IV, which is a different version of kind of at-risk and all that. And if they do that, about 10% of our budget would go out. So what that would happen is if we were to lose 10%, that gives us 2 years to kind of deal with that. We're not gutting everything. We can kind of handle it in a more direct format. Next slide. The other, I kind of talked about this, was cash flow management. The other thing is bond rating protection. This was something, again, we went for a bond. We needed to update everything that we did. So in order to be good stewards of everything that we want and to make sure that we're using those dollars as effectively as possible, you want to have the highest bond rating you can. Because if you're like our next bond draw, when we do the next phase, will be about 51 million. Huge difference between if you're paying like 4% interest or 5% interest on that. And part of that goes back to our bond rating. Next slide. So this is taken right from S&P. You can go online if you want to read the entire report and all that. But what they found, and they actually told us this going in, they're like, hey, you need to have, they asked the board and the board passed the 15% fund equity limit. And then they also said that, hey, budgeting practices are well founded, as partially demonstrated by recent performance, including conservative estimates and use of historical analysis and external data. Budget production is supported, a rolling 5-year financial forecast, which we do and keep you guys kind of apprised of. And officials provide the board with budget to actual reports monthly and formally adhere to a minimum of 15% expenditures for fund equity. And investment and debt management policies mirror the state guidelines. And so by doing that, we've been able to increase our bond rating, which has lowered our, like the taxes that we're paying, or the interest, I should say, on there. The other thing is we try and time it. It's not the case anymore, but you might recall, I think it was about 18 months ago, I walked through, there was an inverted yield curve. Okay. So we were borrowing money at a low rate as the state, as the feds kind of go. So we were borrowing it at like 4.2%, but then the short-term interest rates were 5%. So that they actually allow us to bank that additional money. You can't do it fully. It's called arbitrage. They won't let you borrow money, invest it, and then take the savings. But that helps offset the interest payments. Once you start to build something, you have to start paying it back. So this has really helped us kind of stay ahead. Again, we're under budget so far on the bond. We're ahead of schedule so far. And so there's a lot of questions on fund equity. So hopefully this kind of clarifies that. Next slide. Another thing, there's always questions about salaries and so on, and where we go. So I often use the explanation that we are kind of a donut hole district. So there are districts that have more poverty than us, and they get more funding because they get at risk. Okay. Then we also have, it's just a weird thing, a holdover from 1994 when they did Proposal A. Any district that was at a certain level, and they were, so the state basically said, here's what we can fit in the budget. It was $6,700 per student at the time, just in case anybody cares. So then what they did was, we're drawing a line here. Anybody that's already raising more money than $6,700 per kid can continue to do that. And they call those hold harmless or districts. And so they can forever. There's a couple in Macomb County, Centerline being one of those, where they can go above what the foundation allowance is for everybody. So by doing that, we kind of fall in it. We're not hold harmless. And we don't get a lot of the extra funds that the state kind of doles out. So this is actually for last budget year. And you can see we're kind of, for the first time on revenue side, we're in the middle of the pack. I'll show you what it had been in previous years next. And then, nope, go back. And part of that, it goes back to average. The other thing is the average teacher salary and all that. And so you can see there's about 860, 880 different entities in the state for schools. I know they talk consolidation, but they keep opening charter schools and so on. So you get more entities. It's just what it is. So just keep that in mind. So you can see like total revenue rank, we finally got in the top half of the state. Most of that is on grants that we've written. So we just had the summer discovery grant. That was about 1.6 million. Gave us kind of a good like influx. Now we're spending a lot of that out because you have to run the program, but that's where that kind of goes. Average teacher salary was $73,849. That puts us 105. So in the state out of that. And so what you can kind of see is these don't necessarily jive. So typically if you look at like Warren Con, they get 120, they're 125th. So they're in the top portion. They're also 18th. So they're in the top, like kind of 10%. Their salaries on the top 10%. So we're always fighting to kind of keep our salaries in the upper half, even though we've typically been in the lower portion. What you see on the right is kind of the gap in what other districts. So for example, Mount Clemens, they get $4,278 more per student than we do. Their average teacher salary is also $49,629. So we're trying not to be where we're getting, we don't want to be like top 5% in revenue and then at the bottom half in teacher salaries. Next slide. So this is the previous year, I should say, 23-24. And this is typically, I'll show you kind of the longitudinal. So last year, before we had all of that, we were third from the bottom in the county in funding. So Chippewa Valley got 494. They were 494th, and then I had 14,800 per student. And then Romeo was 14,696 per student. We were 14,962. So Romeo was the lowest at 514 per student. Average teacher salary, 66,000. Anchor Bay, last year, our average teacher salary, we were 38th in the state. We were 78,000 per teacher. Part of that is you have to understand it's the experience. We have a much more experienced staff than most districts. So we have many more teachers. About a third of our teachers are on the top salary step. Next slide. So this is kind of, if you want to look at it longitudinally, you can kind of see where this is revenue. And you can see where the red line, I didn't want to break out. I just wanted to kind of all the districts. So you can see we were always at the bottom. And then 2020, this is ESSER money. So that bumped up some of the funding right there in 2020, 2021. And then we started going to work on what can we do to get grants? What can we do to kind of add things to it? And you can see we've climbed up now in revenue. We're still like at the middle and not in the top half quite yet, but we've been working to try and bring in more things and so we can fund our programs and do things like that. Like you might recall, like the state on the budget when I talked about it last board meeting. So the state said, hey, you have to, even though the feds are probably going to get rid of all the bilingual funding, you still have to have these requirements. So what we did, if you recall, was we went out, we were one of 3 districts in the county, I think 12 in the state, that we got funding for those EL positions to run those programs. Because we got into the first round of funding, now at the end of this year, we're one of the few districts that are eligible to get into the second round of funding, which will hopefully fund the program over 5 years. Now, again, will that raise kind of our revenue? Yes. Can we use it on anything else except for bilingual? No. So we do fund a teacher consultant out of that. We do have a teacher, but those are grant funded positions. And now it gives us time over the next 5 years to kind of, how are we going to cover those long term? It would basically, when it's all said and done, to fund it the way that the requirements are from the state, it'll be about $1 million for all of that, because you have to have a teacher for every grade band, K2, 3, 5, middle school, then high school. And so you have to do that. You have to have a coordinator as well. You have to offer all these services, tutoring, and things like that. So those grant funds will carry the day and maintain and actually build those programs for those services for our students. Next slide. So average teacher salary, you can see this is over the history. So this is back to 2015-16. And you look at the average teacher salary. And again, just so you know, so I believe, I wasn't here at the time, 2019-20 was when we started really taking the decline in fund equity, and that's what led to the takeover. So I know there were some concessionary contracts there. And then in 2021, that's the year that we negotiated, because teachers, we were negotiating, and again, I wasn't here. Some of you would be able to explain that more. They would do like 9-month contracts, 6-month, 1-year contracts, things like that. And so when we came in, we said, let's do a long-term contract. Let's look at what the teachers were getting up for the last 10 years. It was basically a certain percentage. Let's kind of work that in. And I got to give credit to the union. They were very good, because when there was these concessionary contracts, some teachers missed steps. So for those that aren't familiar, a step every year a teacher works, they get a set raise based off of their experience. So our contract, they get a 4% raise every year for every step. And then, so that's considered on schedule. And then there's off schedule, where they can either get, so it could be the bonus money that the state has for 27L, or we actually grow those steps. So, and then people at the top, there's a separate, because if there's not a step, we've been adding steps. So that's been kind of moving it along, but that's kind of how all of that works. So you can see for the first 5 years, it worked very well. And we know that's why last year when we were talking about doing an extension with the teachers, and I believe we were, I thought we were pretty close to that. There were some things we were waiting on the state budget. We were waiting on, there was the zombie legislation bill, Senate Bill 6058, which would have had potentially a 1.67 cost to it year one for healthcare costs. So we wanted to kind of see how that goes. And we'll be back. We're going to start working on a successor agreement later this year. Next slide. So if you want to compare, this is probably the best comparison that you could use, which is what's the state average and how do districts, and how do you do it on a per pupil basis? So you can see we don't get as much federal money. I know it's covered by the one thing, but it's about $300 less per pupil. Just so you know, every $100 is roughly about $550,000. Okay. $300, we're getting less per pupil. That's about 1.5 million less. Local, same thing, 250. So again, about 1.25 or so. State, we get more. A lot of this is because of grants. And so we've been actually now for the first time to get into the top half because of those grants, because of those programs, because of all of that. I was explaining we had the 35 M grant. And we wrote that. We were expecting 160,000. The vast majority of other districts didn't apply for it. And because they didn't apply for it, we were able to get about 534,000. Now, can we use it for teachers' salaries? No. Can we use it for classroom materials? Can we use it for our science of reading work and all that? Yes, we can. Other expenses, administration, we're about $415 on a per pupil basis behind the average cost. We're typically out of the 800, some districts, we're in the 700s for that. We made a big move a few years ago to put a lot of that into instructional support and support services. But again, we just typically get less on a per pupil basis. Operations and maintenance, a lot of that is what we've been doing in trying to handle with like the bond and so on. So that's part of that. And then transportation is a huge cost. We have a larger district and we have to bus kids for 36 square miles roughly compared to some that are same size that are 4 square miles. And there are some like Lakeview, they don't even transport. They only transport for sports. So you kind of get an idea of where it comes. And then the bottom is taxes and everything, kind of where that's at. So if you look at our operating expenditures, they're about $1,100 less than the average for a state, and for the average student. And part of that is just we typically don't get the funding that we have, that everybody else gets. Next slide. And that is it. Any questions? I know that's a lot for the funding part. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, I didn't
Oh,
know.
sorry.
I thought you meant just about the funding.
About it.
Where are we at with staffing for SAC as we approach the start of the school year?
So staffing for SAC, we did a SAC, kind of 2 challenges there. One, the state has changed the licensing for that. So they're not, some of them are not grandfathering people in. So we're working through that. And we think we have the head caregivers, because we have some people who've done it for 20 years. And the state's saying, well, we're not grandfathering you. This is it. So we're working through that. I think we have a pretty good idea. Now, the actual caregivers and all stuff, the assistants, we use a lot of our, teacher cadets. And we did the job fair. We picked up some of those teacher cadets. The challenge that we have is always, it's getting the teacher cadets to actually complete the paperwork and do it before school starts. And that's it. And we have 60 of them that we can choose from, and we send them the materials and we do all that. But typically what we do is when school starts, we have the normal opening things, and the beginning of the second week, we'll actually have them sit down and get on a computer and do all of that if they want to do those positions. So we're not exactly where we need to be. We're ahead of where we were at last year. And really, we're waiting on licensing for to make sure all of those adjustments that we made in staffing and additional staffing for the head caregiver roles in order to make sure that passes licensing. The challenge we have is we used to have one person that would do licensing, but because we're so remote to the east and they were short staff, they said, well, we can't just give you one person. So what we're going to do is give you several people across all the different sites. So you might get one answer from one person at one site. You might get a different one from a different site. And they don't all show up at the same time. So it's like, hey, we have one site. Hey, they're good to go. We can kind of move forward. And then we have another site that might not have that person yet. And everybody's trying to get it licensed right now.
So am I understanding you correctly that there's a possibility we may not be able to run SAC programs at some of our buildings? If
We will be able to run them all in some way, shape, or form, but we will still have there'll just be a waiting list until we can get the ratios kind of all set by, and really it's the high school kids.
Just a,
Sorry, go ahead.
just a suggestion on that. Have we considered, setting up at the high school orientation to try and gain those students and
Yeah.
collect that paperwork or shuffle those students that have that, to the side and try and get it ahead of the game?
Yeah, I know they've talked to the instructor for the course, and she's talked to the kids, and we'll do anything. You want to come in, we'll help you. We'll sit with you to do that. The challenge is always they're not thinking about it. They don't want to start. They don't want to do anything until they have to. And part of it too is a lot of kids are out. They're still doing vacations. I mean, and that could be part of it too. But yeah, we are trying to get out ahead of all of that as much as we can. And we'll take it whenever they come in, or if we know they're coming in, then they'll try and reach out to those kids as well.
Can we not give them their parking permit until they fill it out? I'm serious. Like,
No, well,
I mean,
I can't give it to some other student and then say, hey, you were planning on doing this, you haven't done it yet. No, that's, but I like the creativity.
I have a question around the construction. Is there any concerns with any of the buildings under construction about when we start school? Any delays we should be concerned about?
The main thing that we're looking at is, we were kind of surprised when they decided to redo Sugar Bush Road. We had our construction projects. Then the county decided to do Sugar Bush, and not only the Sugar Bush in front of South, but also Sugar Bush through DeCallens and all of that. That is not supposed to be done until September 14th, they're telling us. Now, that's the official thing. Behind the scenes, they're telling us, hey, they got it paved. That was the biggest thing. We were looking because we had limitations. There for much of the summer, we had about a 8 to 10 foot gravel driveway that we had to bring everything in. And some days we couldn't. If you see those large cranes, they just wouldn't be able to bring those wide load flatbeds in there. So that is a challenge. And that has delayed us somewhat. If it's one way, I don't know. They basically that, and then the bike path was supposed to be done in June, but because they didn't have access to our site as well, they couldn't necessarily do all that. So they meet all the time to coordinate. And I have to say, all 3 crews have been very good about coordinating. Hey, you need this week, but we need access to pour concrete. It's going to be totally down this day. And so we've worked through that. So that's a concern. The 2 kitchens, like I mentioned, those won't necessarily be ready, but we've already come up with contingency plans. And it's really what we've done before. We Lighthouse cooks and then they ship those meals over. We will also use Sugar Bush Chesterfield's working with us to let us use the old Sugar Bush kitchen, and then that will cover Naldred as well. The entryway, because you saw the one fence at Naldred, that does take some of the parking lot up. And the whole reason we're doing a lot of it is because it's a challenge at Naldred anyhow. So we've worked on some of the busing in order to stagger it. So then hopefully it'll free up for parents. And we're actually bringing in concrete barriers that will go in to kind of help. Like you'll get into kind of this lane and you can't, you can stop to drop a kid off, but you can't park or do anything in there. And that we're hoping that will do it. And there will be times during the year. So when they start raising the walls, there'll be about a 2-week period, probably in October. And the ones closest to the main office, we will have to close off that entrance to the main office and maybe the other one. But then we already have a contingency plan to bring students in another entrance. That'll be, by that time, there'll be a hallway kind of from what would be the east side of the building to get them into there. So then they wouldn't have to venture through the construction.
All right. Any other questions? All right, thank you. Next item on the agenda is hearing of the public. Those who wish to address the board on agenda items must complete a brief request stating their name, address, and the subject of their comments. Remarks about specific employees should be directed to them personally and not included in the public forum. Administration will follow up with concerns within 48 hours of the board meeting. And the first one that I have is Joe Adams.
Can you hear me okay? Okay. My name is Joe Adams, 35376 Harrison. I come before you today with a concern. Last year on August 27th, I listened to the board meeting and Mr. Powers brought up of why we are losing staff here at our school. And I heard reasons why, well, people went here because of this and people went here because of that. But my biggest concern is we've lost almost 50 staff members in the past 3 years, 50. That number is alarming. 17 in 2024, 22 last year, and 10 as of today, possibly more. There's still 2 weeks left. I heard excuses like, well, the only reason people left was because they're going to make more money or they wanted to do this in administration. That's not the fact. Maybe for some of them, it was. Reason people leave are for 3 things: valued, support, and money. And they usually go in that category. Nobody's looking for a job if they're valued. Nobody's looking for a job if they're supportive. And nobody's looking for a job if the money is there. You brought, Mr. Jankowski, this I guess goes more towards you. You brought a person to the high school to help change the culture. That person took her time and did her job and listened to the students, the teachers, and figured out ways of how do we fix this? And she brought that to you. And your response was, that's your narrative. And I've heard you use that word here, so I know that's positive there. Assistant principals doing surveys with their teachers. They're not going to talk to them. There's a reason for that. If surveys want to be done, the school board, you guys need to do that. And trust me, if you let these teachers speak, they are going to speak their mind. As long as they know one thing, it's not going to be retaliation. Look at what Lighthouse did. Lighthouse stood up with parents and teachers. And guess what? That is one damn good school right now. Everybody is happy at that school. I'm hearing responses of like, well, we didn't want them anyway. What kind of response is that? I just watched this. You helped me on my speech. I had to write some notes down because I was watching this and I was like kind of concerned. When your administrative staff don't support your staff when it comes to things like discipline, you're more worried about what the parent's going to say or the child's going to say, more about the teacher, the counselor, or the staff that have to deal with this when it's coming down the pipeline. You're suspending students. You're more worried about a restorative. You're doing this and this. But at the end of the day, you've got to think about the other 32 students that are in that classroom, that teacher that's in that classroom, that this student keeps causing problems. I've been a cop for 26 years. I can tell you right now, my job is harder now than it was 20 years ago. Why? Because there's no accountability for anything. We literally continue this path of, well, let's try to fix it. Let's have a little talk, sit down. That stuff does not work, people. I'm telling you right now, there needs to be some discipline, period, and your staff needs to be supportive. Today in the day and age, it's not the word as what's compared, it's competition. I just looked at your score right there, and your red line going downwards is concerning when other lines are going upwards. When that line's going downwards, people are going to start looking and say, where can I go to make more money? We have to put the money back in the teachers' pockets. If not, it's not going to work. You just had one counselor leave for 10 grand more, $10,000 to do the same job. She would never looked if she was happy. We've lost 9 counselors in 3 years from the high school. 9. That to me is disturbing. You are now working with 2 counselors for a 5-person job starting next week. They have no idea what the other persons were doing or whatnot. They're getting thrown in this and you're going to have parents down their throats. And meanwhile, they're going to be overwhelmed.
Mr. Adams, your 3 minutes are up. Please wrap it up.
What's that?
Your 3 minutes are up. Please
I
wrap it up.
apologize. Okay.
Thank you.
I'll end it with this. Let's stop making excuses. Actions matter and not words. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Next is Charles Penzias. Sorry.
I won't take that personal. Charles Penzine, everybody.
Penzine.
53739 Meadowview Lane. I also wanted to rise and speak to you this evening about the concern I have with the teacher and staff departures, particularly at the high school. It is clear that there is a serious problem in the high school, and it needs to be addressed. And the board tried to address it last year, but it's obviously continuing into this year. I pulled up actually the annual education report, which is available online for all of our schools, and found some interesting statistics regarding the high school that I don't know that parents are aware of. But for example, at Anchor Bay High School, about 22% of our teachers are rated inexperienced. Now that rating is 3 years or less teaching. So almost a quarter of our teachers in that school are new. That doesn't bode well for our success for their students as they prepare for college or whatever they're going to do after high school. Interestingly, when you compare that to other schools in the district, for example, Ashley Elementary is 7.6%. So clearly there is not the turnover at Ashley that there is at the high school. Secondly, regarding the high school, the number of emergency or provisional credentials is 9.3%. That means there are teachers or there are people that are teaching at the high school that don't have the credentials to teach at the high school. Now, I'm sure I'm going to hear that that's the CTE programs. Those are the folks that have technical skills. But the fact of the matter is, I think the idea of that program is to bring them along and get them certified. Additionally, there's about 10% of our teaching staff at the high school that is not even teaching in their field. Those are out of field teachers. So those are teachers that are certified to teach other courses other than their teaching last year. All of those things taken together tell me that there's a serious problem at the high school. I've had, since I threw my hat in the ring for school board, I've had teachers come to me and approach me and discuss with me the cultural issue that's at that school. The culture there is seriously problematic. They are not respected. They are not treated with as valuable contributors. It's almost, I hate to say it, a high school attitude at the high school. Teachers are mistreated, followed, fly-specked. They're not treated as professional teachers and given the authority to conduct themselves as you would expect teachers to do. That is a problem that only exists at the high school. Other schools are absolutely thrilled to be teachers at that school. So I just want to raise that as a concern.
Mr. Penzian, your 3
Yep,
minutes is up.
absolutely. I want to raise that as a concern to the board, and let the parents who are aware. This information is available online. They can certainly read the other statistics, and I hope the board finally takes it seriously and gets this solved. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Penzi. Okay, moving down the agenda. In your board packet, you should have received the consent agenda. Items of the consent agenda are of a recurring nature and are voted on as a single item. Any board member may request an item be removed without a vote of the board, and it will be discussed and voted upon individually. I would like to entertain a motion to that effect.
So moved.
Support.
All right. Any comments, questions, or concerns?
I do have one question about the personnel report, the 504 coordinator that we're hiring.
Yes.
Right. I remember you gave us a heads up on this back in the winter that it was needed. At the time, believe you indicated that you thought we were going to get at-risk funding for that. Did that happen, or are we?
There, 504.
Yeah.
Yes, that's 22B. Yes, that'll be as part of the 22B funding that we'll get. Yes.
Okay. Is there anything about that position contractually that would prohibit us from continuing to employ that person directly in the event that the funding didn't come through anymore? We could pay out of the general fund, because it seems like this is a much needed position.
Well, yeah. The whole
And so
plan
I
is-
just want to make sure that
Okay.
there's nothing about this approval that ties the position to getting the funding, that if the funding dries up, we're then able to just pay it out of our general fund and keep the continuity of that position.
Yeah, really, if we carve out enough, like it's with everything, when we add programs, we try and maintain those people. So ultimately, like even with the ELL, our goal is to grant funding to keep her for 5 years. But after that, that gives us 5 years to figure out how to fund it forward. And same thing with that.
Any other comments, questions? I do have one, Mr. Jankowski on here also. It has a assistant athletic coordinator moving from a coach to coordinator. Is that a full-time position? Or is this just a coaching position?
I believe it could be a coaching position. I don't have it in front of me
Okay. All right.
because it already is a full-time position. So,
Okay, great.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions? Call the roll.
Okay. Ms. Knox,
Yes.
Mr. Powers,
Yes.
Ms. Brookmeyer, Mr. Ventellez, yes, Mr. Sunnyberger,
Yes.
Mr. Covert,
Yes.
Mr. Richards.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, moving down to new business. The first item is elementary, secondary handbooks. There are no changes except for addition to the following language. Unless otherwise specified, disciplinary consequences for all prohibited acts range from administrative intervention to, in serious cases, permanent expulsion. Disciplinary consequences depend on many factors, including the severity of the conduct, the impact of the conduct of the school, applicable board policy, state law, including the factors under Section 1310D of the revised school code, applicable federal law, and past suspensions or expulsions. Disciplinary consequences may be accelerated for a student who has been previously reinstated to the district following an expulsion. It is recommended the School Board of Education approve the elementary and secondary handbooks for the 2026-2027 school year. I'd like to entertain a motion to that effect.
I will make the motion.
I'll support.
Okay, motion by Ms. Knox, support by Mr. Powers. Any comments? I'm sorry, thank you. Mr. Covert, any comments, questions, or concerns?
The proposed new policy for absenteeism and tardies, that's not in there, correct?
no.
Okay. What's the next step for that?
The next step is basically we want to bring kind of the teachers around the committee and the administrators and kind of meet with the policy committee.
Okay. So that wouldn't take effect then until next year at this point?
Well, either that or if we decide to do it in the second trimester or something.
Okay. Thank you.
Just a point of clarification for board policies to apply for state law, including factors under section 1310D. Is that what we were just discussing
Those are
earlier?
the 7 factors that we have to follow by law.
Okay.
That I shared with you.
Well, I've been in disciplinary hearings before. I thought we already were following those 7 factors when trying to determine discipline. Is this new in some way or modified in some way?
No, it's just saying that basically these are, we'll do this, but we also have it's on the advice of our attorneys that basically that we're going to comply with the law as well.
Okay, so I guess when I asked you the question earlier during the superintendent update, I think there was, and I want to get caught up on that point, but I think there's a little bit of ambiguity where if we're trying to determine what is the best punishment to give as in like the least least obstructive, we use what works with other districts and see sort of like, as the data in aggregate would show, a certain level of punishment provides a certain level of change in students' behavior. But if that's not publicly available information because student discipline is a confidential matter, how are we able to ascertain what works and what doesn't?
Basically, what we use is we follow case law. And it's kind of like when we had our attorney from our policy group kind of meet with the board policy committee and even they do updates for our administrators every year. And they basically say, hey, this is the update on the case law. This is what happened on this. This is where courts have found that if you do this, like, let me kind of give you a good example from case law and all that. There, like suspensions for putting things online. Okay. There's a whole concept of what constitutes a true threat and what's just tough talk, as they say. And so you might have, there was another district where basically it was a cheerleader wasn't happy that she didn't make the team outside of school. She basically said, hey, I hate the coach. I hate this. I hate that. I'm going to, someday they'll get theirs. It was something like that. So then the school district in that case, they're like, oh, we're going to suspend you. Well, no, students still have First Amendment rights. And that's one of those things. And then there's other tests that you have to do. So sometimes you're limited in discipline there. So if there's something like that happened outside of school, didn't have a direct impact, wasn't considered a true threat.
Mhm.
So those are the tests that you have to use. It's like, yeah, it might have been tough talk. It might have been uncomfortable, but at the end of the day, you will not get that upheld.
So if we have a student who basically has a substantive threat, qualifies for those 7 factors, we determine is
Mhm.
someone who probably would be better off not, I mean, frankly, I think I share everyone, I wouldn't want to speak for everyone, but I think the general consensus, at least from what I perceive, is we don't like the idea of having expel and suspend students, but we have to care about the district as a whole. And so if a student is causing issue, they got to go because we're trying to protect
Mhm.
everyone's needs. Now, if someone applies and has all the 7 factors that qualify them as someone who's dangerous for the district,
Yes.
we still retain free will and ability to defend the interests of everyone else in the district and allow that student to be expelled and removed from the situation so they don't cause any more continued damage.
Okay. Again, it's yes, you do, but with the qualifications that it has to fit within those 7 things. So the example that's often thrown out is like, hey, if a kid's vaping 3 times, and can you expel them? Probably not. They will not be upheld. And again, that's straight from our attorney. You're not going to get that because was it a substantial disruption to other people? Was it, did it put other people at risk and all that? And also depending on the age of the kid, those are the things that you can't necessarily do. Just for background, just so you know, I mean, we do, and you guys know this because we have discipline hearings on things. About half the districts in Macomb County have never expelled anybody, just so you know, like in the last year. Okay. And then we have people depending on whatever the case is, and that always goes before the board. So we are in like kind of probably the top 5 is the last I saw it, because they don't tell you exactly what's the exact situation is. They tell you kind of the categories, and that's it. So we do follow through on those. But we don't know the exact details and all that. Now, if it goes to court, we have case law, and that's every year we're updating the case law, and we take that into account when they're administering discipline.
Thank you.
Any other questions? No? All right. Call the roll.
Ms. Knox,
Yes.
Mr. Covert,
Yes.
Mr. Vinatelli is a yes, Mr. Sunnyberger,
Yes.
Mr. Richards,
Yes.
Mr. Powers,
Yes.
Ms. Berkmeyer. Motion passes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, moving down. Next item is MASB Delegate Assembly. The MASB 2026 Delegate Assembly will begin on Thursday, October 15th at 7 p.m. at the Lansing Center. Delegates selected by the Board of Education across the state will decide MASB's positions on a wide variety of issues affecting education. All delegates and alternatives must be school board members. Only delegates and alternatives named by your board may offer motions and vote on issues. The board needs to name a delegate and an alternative. It is recommended that we nominate a delegate and an alternative. Would anyone like to entertain that motion? I guess, did anyone remember who went last year?
I went last year.
You went last year, all right. Would anyone like to make a motion to that effect?
And if I was an outgoing board member, I think that'd be like just put a bow on my tenure.
If it makes a difference, I'm signed up this year. I'm going,
Okay,
whether I'm the delegate or not, I'm going to be up there.
all right.
So I'd like to make a motion, as long as he's willing to do it while he's there, to make Mr. Sunnyberger the delegate for the MASB conference.
Okay,
I will second that.
and would anyone like to recommend an alternative?
Would you say there's like a 90% chance you're going to attend?
It's paid for.
Okay, I'll be the alternate.
And I will second him as the alternate.
All right, nice. All right. Any comments, questions, or concerns? Okay, hearing none, call the roll, please.
Mr. Powers,
Yes.
Ms. Knox,
Yes.
Mr. Sunnyberger,
Yes.
Mr. Covert,
Yes.
Mr. Richards,
Yes.
Ms. Berkmeyer,
Yes.
Mr. Vinatelli is a yes. Motion passes.
Hey, good luck. All right, next item, middle school textbook approval. Middle school social studies textbook recommendations. A K through 8 social studies committee, which included 10 teachers, an instructional coach, and district administration met several times during the 2025-2026 school year to review social studies textbooks. The committee sought input from other teachers in their home buildings while reviewing samples from 3 vendors. All 3 vendors presented their resources to the committee, which was given additional time to review the material. The committee recommended purchasing SAV.
Savas.
Thank you. Savas. Thank you very much. My World Interactive for grades 5 through 8. The purchase includes hard copies and online resources for 5 years. The total is $164,280.34. It is recommended the Board of Education approve the textbooks for the amount of $164,280.30 as presented. Would anyone like to entertain that motion?
I will make the motion.
Ms. Knox?
I'll support.
Okay, Mr. Sunnyberger, support. Any comments, questions, or concerns?
Refresh my memory, when, if it gets approved, when are we going to have textbooks in hand?
They will be here next week.
Oof.
We went over everything in curriculum committee on, was that Monday? Is that when we went?
Yes.
Okay, on Monday, yeah.
All right.
So
Looks good.
I don't want to speak for Mr. Sunnyberger, but I shared the sentiment that he shared in our curriculum meeting. Particularly in 2026, I am hesitant to approve a social studies of all subjects curriculum or book without having gone through it myself. Mr. Jankowski was able to send us the an online link to access the curriculum on Monday night. I mean, unfortunately for myself, I did not get a chance yesterday or this morning to be able to go through it. There were some comments made, somewhat inappropriate in my opinion, but towards Mr. Sunnyberger about whether he supported the staff that went through this work, to recommend these. And I can say for myself, it has absolutely nothing to do with what the staff would like to use and wants to use. I trust them in that sense, but it just, in today's political world, has all to do with myself putting my name on something that I was not able to flip through, and having to own that. So for that reason alone, I can't vote for it tonight. I would love to, if I was able to take home a book and, come back in a week or something. Not to say that I wouldn't take that home and look at it and be, I'm going to say 98, 99% sure that I would be fine with it. But I just want to put that out there that would be why I can't support going through it with this. I know in the past it was brought up that we have approved curriculum. The board, in truth, the board committee, a curriculum committee has not, we don't come into the meetings where it's all presented to the staff and that the staff goes through everything. But in my experience in the past, we have had them in our meeting and can kind of flip through things and take a look at hard copies. That was not available on Monday. So for that reason alone, I would either want to, table this or come back in a week and look at it. My personal preference, but if everybody else is good to go forward, I mean, absolutely. I don't want to, I was very hesitant because I really truly did not get a chance to look at it yesterday when I really wanted to, because I don't want to put on hold the work that the staff has gone through to, pick a book and move forward for the school year. But this is kind of where I'm at today, because unfortunately yesterday I didn't have the chance.
All right. Any other comments on tabling it or any other comments in general?
I guess I would just ask, so the 2 members of that committee were yourself and Mr. Sonnenberg?
Ms.
Okay.
Knox.
And I guess I would be interested to learn your perspective if you think it would be appropriate and if it's even possible to get that done in a week as you suggest and still make, timelines that we had pre-established. Any perspective?
I did get a chance to take a look at the American history book. Not crazy in depth because it was just a couple of days. Little things like our standards run through, they run after Reconstruction into the 1890s. The book stops at Reconstruction. It starts way before our standards need it to start. Is that extra part in the beginning worthless? No, it's always great to refresh and relearn something you've known. But now we have a couple of lost decades at the end of the 1800s that when are we going to pick that stuff back up again? Overall, I wasn't too disappointed in what I read. I did ask some guidance from some trusted friends, and I am okay putting it forth today. But that's just my opinion.
I feel very comfortable with the way they went about it with the 10 teachers. I'm hardly qualified. You can check my school records to do anything with American history. And I did look through, just perused it, seemed absolutely fine. We had the instructional coach, district administration, everybody go through it. I'm very comfortable with what they choose. We do that a lot, and we do get to look through the book sometimes we don't. If we do, it's while we're sitting there. If they have a hard copy, which is hardly time to fully go through every facet of a textbook, we do get a general overview, but I'm very comfortable voting today.
I guess I have a question too, just around when the staff went through it. I take it they went through an online version since there was no hard copies available for the committee?
Yeah, so basically there is an electronic version as part of the online because we get electronic versions. It's by law now, you have to have electronic version as well. It just was easier than being able to have one book for everybody.
And just to clarify as well, the middle school will be getting textbooks. It's not just online. I actually, in talking about it with other parents, that was specifically asked, like, are we actually going back to textbooks? Because sometimes I can agree, it can be a nightmare having to only work online with your kid, and trying to like flip back and forth and things like that. So yes, it is a textbook. The online is like supplement. I mean, I think you could probably just use it, but we are getting the textbook.
Yeah, no, we are getting physical books, yes.
So I'm a little familiar with this textbook. I have a trusted associate that I speak with, and it was referred to me by her that this is a very reliable and good textbook for social studies. But I think what Ms. Berkmeyer discussed, I think is a very valid concern. And I think maybe as a board going forward, perhaps we can put it before the policy committee, is to have a review process by the board first before, either after it goes through the curriculum committee, maybe before it goes to that point, we have to figure that out. But before it comes to a vote, we all have a chance to read through it and give a reasonable amount of time to sign off that we have been able to read through the material and see if there's any sort of, because I think largely what we're concerned about is not necessarily if it applies to standards. We have teachers to basically affirm that it fits the curriculum that's required by the state, but to see if there's any sort of objectionable content that's put in there, or if there's a better textbook that would also satisfy the needs of the state required curriculum, but also present it in a way that's more agreeable to the parents that want their kids to grow up with their values. So that to say, I will approve of this. My vote would be a yes for this today, but I think, I'm hope to see a little, perhaps a modification the way the curriculum is brought forward going forward.
Just so I can retract too. So you're looking to have the board review it before it goes to a committee?
Probably it would make sense, I assume, to go after the curriculum committee, then it goes to the board for review, and then it comes to a vote.
Okay.
After we've had a chance to look through the material.
All right.
To add on to what you said, when I got the link, it was for the online version. It was for the reader, which is, it's clunky as all get out, and it makes it hard to search for things, and it makes it hard to find things. If I'm spending $160,000 on some textbooks, that company better give me a PDF of the book that I can search through. And I've asked that before, and I was kind of chuckled at and said, there's no way that's going to happen, but I'm spending a lot of money, and I don't think it's too much to ask to have an easily searchable PDF of the materials.
All right. Any other comments? Mr. Powers? Good. All right, let's call the roll.
Ms. Knox,
Yes.
Mr. Sunnyberger,
Yes.
Mr. Covert,
Yes.
Mr. Richards,
Yes.
Mr. Powers,
Yes.
Ms. Berkmeyer, Mr. Venetazzi, yes. Motion passes.
All right. Moving down. We have award recommendation for food service equipment. A request for food service equipment bid was posted on Sigma on July 6, 2026. For the following 5 bids were received. Culinary Depot, $144,679.02. HPS for $179,950.38. Stratford Smith, $176,792. Gold Star Products, $174,323.64. Douglas Equipment, $171,125.52. While Culinary Depot and Douglas Equipment submitted lower bid amounts, their proposals did not meet bid requirements. Culinary Depot submitted bids using off-brand equipment and did not align with the specified requirements. Douglas Equipment did not provide required specifications and did not include installation, and submitted their proposal after the deadline. As a result, they were not considered for the award. The Food Service Department recommends awarding the contract to Gold Star Products, as they are the lowest responsive and responsible bidder that met all specifications and requirements. All equipment included in the bid aligns with MDE pre-approval food service equipment list. It is recommended that the Board of Education award the food service equipment contract to Gold Star Products as presented. I would like to entertain a motion to that effect.
So moved.
Support.
Motion by Ms. Knox, support Ms. Colbert. Any comments, questions, or concerns?
Have we ever purchased items like this before? Or is this all new, not only new equipment, but new to us because of the upgrades we've done?
No, we on an annual basis as part of our food service, we had talked about it. I don't know if you remember last board meeting that
I was
you
on
have to get an
vacation.
approved spend down plan for basically, and everything that you generate in your food service, you have to kind of put back into the kitchen and things like that. So this is just part of that.
Do we have any history with Gold Star purchasing this kind of equipment from them?
I believe so. I think that's what they mean when they talk about being a responsible bidder, because they've used them before. And they're also the MDE, they're on the pre-approved list for them as well.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? No? Call the roll.
Ms. Knox,
Yes.
Mr. Covert,
Yes.
Mr. Richards,
Yes.
Mr. Powers,
Yes.
Ms. Berkmeyer.
Yes.
Mr. Venetazzi, yes. Mr. Sunnyberger,
Yes.
motion passes.
All right. Next one item is boilers phase 3 from the energy bond. Award recommendations, boiler phase 3 energy bond. Anchor Bay School District received bids for phase 3 of our boiler and hot water pump project. Phase 3 includes Lighthouse, Lottie, Transportation Center, and the Aquatic Center. It is the recommendation of the Ward Phase 3 boiler and hot water pump project to Guyette Mechanical in the amount of $1,003,580. Centric fees for this project total $210,751.80. Owner held contingency of $75,000. Total for Phase 3 boiler and hot water pumps, $1,289,331.80. It is recommended the Board of Education approve Phase 3 boiler and hot water pumps as presented. I would like to entertain a motion to that effect.
I'll make the motion.
I'll support.
Okay, motion by Mr. Powers, support by Ms. Knox. Any comments, questions, or concerns? Hearing none, call the roll, please.
Mr. Powers,
Yes.
Ms. Knox,
Yes.
Mr. Sunnyberger,
Yes.
Mr. Vinatelli is a yes, Ms. Brookmeyer, Mr. Richards,
Yes.
Mr. Covert,
Yes.
motion passes.
Okay. Next item, building automated system upgrades, also for the energy bond. Anchor Bay School District received bids for BAS system upgrades. BAS system upgrades include Lighthouse, Naldrit, Lottie, McCons, and the Transportation Center. It is a recommendation to award Phase 3 boiler and hot water pump projects to Metro Controls in the amount of $963,445. Centric fees for this project total $202,323.45. Owner held contingency of $70,000. The total for phase BOS system upgrades $1,235,768.45. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the BAS system upgrades in that amount as presented. I would like to entertain a motion to that effect.
So moved.
Support.
Motion by Ms. Knox, supported by Mr. Colbert. Any comments, questions, or concerns?
Is the second line carryover from previous that says to award the Phase 3 boiler and hot water pump when this is the BAS system?
Yeah, this is the controls for those boilers. So it's the other.
Okay, but that is the correct wording then?
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right.
Any other questions? Call the roll, please.
Ms. Knox,
Yes.
Mr. Covert,
Yes.
Mr. Sunnyberger,
Yes.
Mr. Vinatelli is a yes, Ms. Brookmeyer,
Yes.
Mr. Powers,
Yes.
Mr. Richards,
Yes.
motion passes.
All right. Moving down the list, next item on the list, on the agenda is a volunteer appeal. In your board packet, you should have received some more information. As part of our recent policy update, we instituted an appeal process for those parents who wish to volunteer or accompany students on field trips. Current practice is to hold parents to the same restrictions the state places on district employees. The appeal process will allow each parent to speak about their appeal for 5 minutes, and then the board will vote on the appeal. Tonight, we have one appeal, and it's parent A. Is parent A here? All right, parent A is here.
Yes. My name's Gary Solomon. I live at 35615 Hammer Street. Just go. I just want to appeal because we have a 5-year-old son together, and I'm assuming, I don't even exactly know, but I guess it's from something I did about 25 years ago that is on my record, and I just want to tell the board that I've raised 2 full-grown kids now. That one just graduated from Ohio State with summa cum laude. My other son graduated De La Salle and went on to play college sports and baseball. Runs a successful company together. I have 4 other stepchildren. One that graduated from Anchor Bay that's starting her junior year in high school. The other one's an electrician, the other one's a border patrol agent, and the other one owns a successful business as well. So I just don't want my 5-year-old that we have together to be penalized for something I did 25 plus years ago that has not affected the way I've raised or grew up or any of my other children. It's not going to affect anything that happens with the 5-year-old. I don't have much else to say. A little nervous, I guess, but
All right. I'd like to entertain a motion if anyone would like to either approve or not approve the appeal for parent A.
I'm trying to pull up the packet right now, so I don't have the details. To me, obviously, you're parent A. I don't want to use your name or anything else like that, but and I hate to say because I can't pull it up right now, so might need a second. But I believe there are some aspects of this that were a little more recent than 25 years ago. I think it was closer to maybe 10 or 15. Obviously, we have to make decisions for a district as a whole. And so that's kind of the way I'm navigating this. It's not to besmirch any individual person, not to try to make anyone feel bad, but I think there are certain things that are on the report that came through that I'm a little bit uncomfortable with, and that's just sort of my take on the current situation. So unless you want to shed light on those instances.
I don't even know what's on the report. I mean, the only other thing I have on my record is a drunk driving, so I don't know. I
Okay.
have assault and battery that was 25 years ago. That was a misdemeanor. That's what I was assuming it was for. So I don't know. There's nothing else on my record. So I've never been charged with a felony or I've never been convicted of a felony. I don't.
Okay.
Nobody ever informed me of what it even was that I got denied for. So I don't even know how to defend myself. I don't even know what I'm accused of, fully.
Don't they get a packet of what?
Yeah. We reach out. That's how they know whether to appeal.
It just says it's denied. It doesn't say like for what.
So when they receive the notification, just does it state the reasoning why the denial, or just kind of says, the request has been denied?
Typically, it says that it's denied and for one of the categories, whatever the category is, and then because there's those different factors, same thing that we use for staff. And then, hey, there's an opportunity. And my understanding is, I believe this was originally at the end of last year. So then it just trying to get out ahead of it for this year. Yes.
Okay.
That's the only two things that I've ever been charged with. So I don't know.
Okay.
And the misdemeanor assault was 25 plus years ago. It was, I mean, if we want to say it was a bar fight that I was involved in with a whole group of people that got out of hand, and that's it. Well, I mean, I went through De La Salle with my son. I went with Regina with my daughter. I never had no issues. I went on field trips. I went on other things. I passed. I never had to go in front of the board for any of them, but I did the background checks with all of them. Like I said,
All right.
I don't feel like my 5-year-old should be penalized for something I did 20 plus years ago, or even if it's a drunk drive, and I don't plan on driving any of the kids around. And I do have a full license in my back, everything. I've went through everything I've done. I went through sobriety classes. I went through AA. I went through every single thing to get myself better and get through all that.
All right. Still did not have any motions on the
I will make a motion to approve parent A's volunteer appeal.
All right.
I'll support.
All right. So motion by Ms. Knox, support by Ms. Burkmeyer. Any comments or questions?
A lot of other boards don't run as tight a ship as we do. That's why we we make sure these kids are safe beyond safe.
I don't have a problem with it. That's why I'm here.
All right. Call the roll.
Ms. Knox,
Yes.
Ms. Burkmeyer,
Yes.
Mr. Vinatelli is a no. Mr. Powers,
No.
Mr. Sunnyberger,
Yes.
Mr. Covert,
Yes.
Mr. Richards.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. All right. Moving down the list, getting towards the bottom. Points of pride. And I'm going to start with Ms. Burkmeyer.
Thanks. I don't really have a whole lot. I know, we're coming up on staff fully returning to school. And obviously students follow shortly after that. So I hope everybody has a happy, healthy school year. And also, good luck to our Anchor Bay Tar athletes that have begun practicing and gonna start, seasons will be starting back up for us pretty soon. So good luck to everybody and hopefully we have a great year.
Thank you. Mr. Vintilli.
I do not have anything today. Appreciate the board showing up. I know it's summertime and It's very fun to be outside. It's also a little less fun to be inside making board decisions. So thank you all for being here.
I echo that. Ms. Knox,
I did not do my homework today. I have nothing.
fair enough. It is summer. Mr. Powers.
Yeah, just a couple things. Number one, regarding the resignations, Mr. Adams was correct. We did bring this up a year ago at our August meeting. That was still my first year on the board, and the reason why I brought it up at the time was because I was just kind of surprised at how often resignations appeared on the personnel report, and that was really the only time we heard about it. It's just kind of like a line item on a personnel report. There was never, it seemed like it was just normalized that you have resignations and it's kind of no big deal. And it's certainly true that when you operate a district the size of ours, you're going to have staff turnover. You can't avoid it. People move, people change careers, people have life circumstances that change, but it's absolutely true that we have too many people who aren't looking to leave education. They're just looking to leave Anchor Bay. And it certainly seems to be coalescing around one of our buildings. And I would like to see us make a concerted effort to try to address what's going on there, why it's happening, and what we can do to prevent it, because Anchor Bay should be a destination job. We have $17 million fund balance. We have a $170 million bond project. We have facilities that a lot of schools would dream of. We're by the lake. We're close to the country. We're close to the city. I mean, you name it, we have it. This should be a district that other boards are arguing about how they can prevent their staff from leaving to come here. We should not be having discussions about why people don't want to stay here. So, we had an employee of that building slamming our district on social media today. We had the spouse of another employee at that building slamming our district on social media today. And I'm not criticizing them for doing that. I don't think they do that haphazardly. I don't think they woke up this morning and decided to hate Anchor Bay and wanted to make a scene. I think they did it out of desperation and not defiance. I think they're so fed up with some of the things that are going on that they felt they had no other choice. And I think it's an embarrassing look for our district. And I certainly understand that there's always two sides to every story. And I'm not saying that everything is terrible, but I do think it's time that we have some sort of plan and that we as a board demand some sort of a plan to address the culture in that building. Because as we can see, we brought it up a year ago. Now the public is starting to get fed up with it as well. And it just needs to be addressed. I don't think it has to be anything more than that. I think we just have to address it and take it seriously. The other thing I want to bring up is we formed a parent advisory committee for special education. I attended that. Can't remember if it was last week or the week before. I apologize, but I did attend it. I'm glad we started this. It is certainly long overdue. A lot of times the hardest part of these types of things is just starting it, and we took the first step to start it. I think it has a lot of potential. I think it has the potential to kind of set the standard for how districts collaborate with parents to improve the special education experience for all their special education students. But it also has the potential to be just kind of a check the box thing that like, yeah, we did it, so we did our job. I hope that this is a sincere effort to engage with the special education community and the parents to really make things better, because I think we can do better. I think we're doing a good job in a lot of things, but I certainly think we can do better. I know that we've had a lot of complaints filed against us with the state over the last year, and typically we've gotten favorable rulings where like we're technically compliant, but we shouldn't take that to mean that there aren't things that we could have done differently. I was bringing this example up to a parent I was talking to there. I used to work for a guy who got sued all the time, and he was undefeated in his lawsuits, and he was so proud of it. And you could always tell when he was getting sued because he'd walk around the office and give all the employees an update. I'm 23-0. A couple months later, I'm 24-0. A couple months later, I'm 25-0. And finally, like a couple of us at a meeting said to the guy, like, aren't you kind of tired of getting sued? Like, I get it. If you're going to get sued, you'd rather win than lose, but aren't you tired of getting sued? Like, have you ever thought about maybe changing the way you run your business so you don't get sued all the time? And he didn't like that, and I didn't work there much longer, and that's okay. But my point being is, there's probably a series of events that lead to a parent feeling like they need to file a complaint with the state. It's hard for me to believe that at the first sign of trouble, they run and file a complaint. It's probably a last resort. And I think if we treat this parent committee as a true collaboration, that we can resolve a lot of these issues before they even get that far. And again, we can become an example to all the other districts in Macomb County on how to work with parents to make the special education experience for their students a better one. So with that, I just want to wish everybody good luck on the new school year, and welcome back staff, and thank you.
Well said. Thank you, Mr. Bowers. Mr. Covert.
Yeah, the only thing I have is I just wanted to say I appreciated your comments on some of the retention and resignation issues that, as one of the new members on the board, am continually hearing about as well. So I guess my ask would be not only that we start to work on a solution, which it sounds like we had started in the previous year, but that any time that we get a resignation, I appreciated that recently they shared their exit survey results, and I would ask that kind of be made a standard practice. I don't know if you have to afford them the opportunity to allow for that, but I think that should just be standard anytime they go out, so that we get an understanding of their motivations and some specifics behind it. And then beyond that, to those that had made comments tonight, if there is any response from the district's part, from your office's part, I would appreciate seeing what that is. That's it.
All right. Thank you. Mr. Sunnyberg.
I am really looking forward to spending a little time at the big house for our first football game. And my youngest child, who is on the JV football team, whenever I need to needle him or get under his skin a little bit, I remind him that Anchor Bay is a band school and that football is just what happens before and after the halftime. So my my oldest child will be marching on the field, and I'll be there cheering him on.
Fantastic. I have a short list tonight, so is that correct? All right. Kindergarten bus safety welcome event is August 19th at Great Oaks at 9 a.m., Lighthouse at 10:30, and McCons at 12:30. On August 20th is Maldred at 9, Lottie at 10:30, and Ashley's at noontime. Class placements and class schedules will be available to parents and students in Power School beginning on Tuesday, August 25th at 4 p.m. Bus information will be sent out on Friday, August 14th. I can't believe I'm saying this, but the first day of school is Monday, August 31st. Mr. Sunnyberger mentioned bands. I'm going to promote their Anchor Bay Bands has a fundraiser at Swirly Top. How can you go wrong? At Ice Cream, August 15th from noon to 8 p.m. I'd also like to recognize Cameron tonight, with his discus, not only breaking, a state record, but also breaking the Anchor Bay record, great accomplishment. A lot of us, I think, followed him on social media. It's great to see Anchor Bay, doing great things. That's all I have. Legislative update.
It is an election year. Everybody's up for election. They will probably be in session maybe 2 days between now and November. Other than that, there's nothing going on. And then depending on how the election goes, we'll be in lame duck where anything can happen.
All right. Any committee updates? We kind of talked about already.
Curriculum met Monday, but we discussed that with the textbooks and everything. That's about it.
All right.
Yeah, curriculum met. We did the textbook discussion. And then, as I think you heard in our previous meeting, the elementary textbooks are being punted for one more year for social studies, but that was by staff request. Also, one thing I would want to share, because I think everybody Monday that was in the meeting was pretty excited about it. The special ed staff came and presented to us a new course proposal for this fall that they're trying to make happen. Usually, like, that's not something, usually adding a course is kind of, planned ahead of time a little bit more, but because of, the, I guess, excitement for this course. They're kind of looking to expedite and maybe see if they can add it in for this fall at North. And that would be a makerspace leadership course. So taking on the makerspace class for North, so for 5-6. But because North houses some of our CI programs for special ed, kind of incorporating and taking students that can, appropriately handle and interact with our CI students and combining, general education and this, the CI class into a leadership course so that the kids are intermingling, working together, helping one another, and doing these makerspace tasks maybe in more group form, and giving the leadership qualities for the gen ed students, but also the makerspace opportunity for the special ed students as well. And that was even already, they had plans or ideas of that evolving where, some of the makerspace items that they create with Glowforge and things could even move forward into like spilling into the school store type opportunities as well. So just kind of building on opportunities for the special ed students as well. So to me, that was like a very innovative, exciting thing that came about actually because of two of the staff members have been talking about it all summer, and then kind of pleaded to maybe put it before us and see if they could just tweak some of the makerspace classes this year to kind of make this fit. So I think they're gonna, go ahead and try and see if that they can make that work scheduling wise and do it already. So that would be, I thought that would be an exciting addition to be able to see. And in the past, sometimes in the makerspace rooms, I know as a parent, but also sometimes as a board member, I've been invited. So hopefully if that opportunity presents, I would love to be invited, for any sort of showcase that they end up doing for that class. So that was I'm just looking through because it was only 2 days ago that we had this meeting, but I'm already,
Yeah,
I can't remember it.
So.
Yeah, and then, the attendance policy was discussed as well, and then I think, so that's gonna get moved to policy committee to kind of move going forward, so that was about the crux of it, I think.
The only other thing too, I want to add, not that I want to add more work to the policy committee, but I would like to try and get that vaping, back on, into the policy committee, going into the school year. I was reading an article that here in Michigan, they got the local law enforcement more involved with the school district as well. We're trying to tackle it from inside the school where, the problem stems more outside the school. So I think we should try and get, more, whether it's St. Clair County Sheriff, Macomb County Sheriff, Chesterfield and Baltimore involved, because I think that, we have a big issue. We hear a lot about it from staff. And I want, not that we can solve the issue, but I think, we need to kind of look into that a little bit more on trying to figure out better ways to improve it. So policy is going to be pretty busy in September. So, all right. And I think that is it. If anyone would like to make a motion to end the meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Covert. Ms. Knox?
Yeah.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Thank you very much. And it's 9:13.